Warning: the following podcast show that you're about to listen to will include explicit language and content in which you, the members of the audience, may find offensive. Audience discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience.
Yeah, boy.
Where anything and everything is a subject matter on the show, and no subject matter is ever taboo.
Damn, that's what's up with you.
And now, your host with the most, Mr. Kim Hoang. Bro, am I getting paid for this?
Yo, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? How in the world are you? This is your boy, Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation, your host with the most, the man with the plan, the guy that actually has the power to bring it within an hour, and you know that I'm the voice, and you know I'm the choice, and we're here. Another great episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, coming at you live, recording over at the Prototype Studio in Wheaton, Maryland, which is, a hop, skip, and a jump away over from the Washington, D.C. borderline. So, for all intents and purposes, it is the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Man, it just feels great to be here in the booth, doing it up. Hector is kind of doing his thing and kind of helping us out in some way, shape, or form. I know that he's on assignment, so he's actually running around taking care of some errands and so forth. And good old Bob, Mr. Bob is he's around. I don't know what he's up to. I think he's probably just working on some wiring around here in the building, just making sure that the Prototype Studio is up and running well, and everything's copacetic, and that's good. That's good because if I haven't said it before, then I will mention it again, just for the sake of saying that, maybe I didn't mention it the first time. But I love the Prototype Studio. I really do. This is a space where a creator like myself can go ahead and do things that he wants to do. Within reason, of course. He can be loud about it. He can be very excited about it or sad about it. And he can just do everything and anything that he wants without, any restrictions or people telling him otherwise. He can't do that in the space that you're recording. And that's just the one thing I love about this place. That if I needed to go ahead and do something that would require me to be online to check out, facts and statistics and so forth, with the Wi-Fi and the internet technology that we have here in this building, it's incredible. So say, for example, I'm trying to find statistics on, the last 10 MVPs of the NBA Finals, you know what I mean? I would just go ahead and type it in, hit the button, click, and then, within seconds, I get that, answer within, I would say, well, I know I'm probably being dramatic when I say this, but within the speed of light. I don't know if that's actually possible, but it definitely does feel that way. And it just makes me appreciate the fact of where we came from technology-wise, because before you actually had to do the research the old school way, that you had to go dig deep in periodicals, magazines, and almanacs, and encyclopedias. And I'm talking about the encyclopedia book that weighed 5 pounds on each arm, you know what I mean? So it was that deep. But now with the technology that we have and going online and everything like that, I think the younger generation of today, y'all have it so lucky, you know what I mean? We have it lucky too for my generation, no doubt about it. But y'all generation, the younger generation, y'all just all I gotta say is y'all got it real good, you know what I mean? So I can't I got to be grateful. And the rest of the guys out there, you youngins out there, you better not stunt. Be very grateful for the stuff that we have and the resources we have. It's incredible. We're going to do it up today. It's going to be a fun one. lots going on a little bit. We're changing a little bit of the format a little bit. I was going to go and do an episode that I had planned originally, but then, I did something which actually is great because that actually ties up to the first segment, the opening segment of this podcast episode, which is about, podcasting audibles. Going off the script, changing it up a little bit. Now, for those that don't know what the term audible is, it's a sports term commonly used in football, like the NCAA or the NFL, or for our international, listeners out there that don't know what it is, American football. Because in the international terms, when you go to places like Argentina or Brazil or Spain or Mexico or, maybe in Germany and England, football to them is soccer to us Americans. And then when you say American football from their terminology, then in the American vernacular, it's regular football, NFL and NCAA, have that ball that's very oval shaped, that's made out of pigskin, and, touchdown. That's us. So, it's an American football term or an NFL, NCAA football term when the quarterback, the guy who throws the ball, changes the play at the line of scrimmage and calls it out to the other players on his team. So it's like, I'm reading blitz. So instead of doing like an I formation, we're going to go ahead and do like a 3-4 going into a Hail Mary kind of a thing. So there's a lot that goes on with that sort of thing. And it's very common, when people in the podcast shows, when they do their show, when they're the host, it's very common. It's not uncommon. It's very common when, certain hosts and co-hosts, they may pull, the podcasting audible. Now, already a lot of people are wondering, well, when do they use said audible? And why do they even utilize? Like, why are they utilized? That's a good question. The purpose of it right now is that I'm going to tell you about the whens and I'm going to tell you about the whys. There is one answer for the when and kind of sort of like, multiple answers for the whys. And I'll try to kind of broaden it a little bit. So here we go. When podcasters use the podcasting audible, it's when, long story short, podcasters use that audible anytime in their podcast. It can be utilized at the, in the middle, near the end, or in the end, even in the beginning. Whenever, they feel like the time is appropriate to use it, they'll pull out their card without hesitation and utilize it, just like that. So say for example, I'm starting, a new episode and I'm starting it now and I'm just like talking like blah, 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 but we're, instead of me talking about this, we're going to go here. You know what I mean? Or I could just go on in my podcast and talk a good, game about something. And maybe near the end of the podcast where I have the Q&A form, I might say, you know what? Usually at the end here, I usually do a Q&A form. But for today, I'm just going to add one more thing that I'm going to talk about. And then that'll be it. So it happens. It happens. It's very common. Now that we have, talked about the when, now we're going to talk about the why. You know what I mean? Why, podcasters use the podcasting audibles. And again, I have a couple of answers here. Some of it you might already know and you might be like, oh, well, that's common sense. And, more power to you if you do understand that. Kudos. However, if you don't know anything about it at all, well, I welcome you. I welcome you to the fact that you get to learn a little bit of something, the trade secrets, if you will, the inside track and the, keeping you in the loop of, what goes down in podcasting and, the when and the whys and so forth. So here's the whys about podcasting Audibles, why they do that. So the first answer that I came up with, and I thought it was, pretty obvious. Why they do it, answer number one, is to switch subjects. There's going to be some episodic situations in a podcast where the host may find that what they want to talk about initially, it may not be appropriate at that time, and they want to put something else in its place that might be a little bit more important. And when they think it's a little bit more important, that it takes more precedence, then at that point, they're just like, okay, we're going to go from, option one, and we're going to flip it over to option two. That does happen a lot. You might listen to a podcast where, let's say, for example, let's use this analogy. Say that you're listening to a podcast about, the martial arts, and, instead of the day where it was going to be concentrated on traditional martial arts of taekwondo or karate, you all of a sudden start talking about MMA and, the different MMA organizations like the UFC and then, Championship One and organizations like that, Strike Force and all that stuff, Bellator. And, that does happen. That does happen. Maybe because they felt like that was a more interesting issue or a more important issue to them and their martial arts podcast, and that's totally fine. That happens a lot more than you think. Or even an example, and I hate to use this. Another analogy is that you might be a person that likes podcasts about politics. So say, for example, the host starts talking about certain political policies and so forth. Now, instead of talking about policies, they want to go off the grid and talk about something else other in the politics mix. And maybe they want to talk about, the presidential election, or they want to talk about, politics in famous Hollywood movies. It happens. Just when you least expect it, they just go ahead and they switch the subjects, they flip it around, and when they do that, they just think that issue is a little bit more important than what they had initially. Nothing wrong with that. Number two on the reasons of why the podcasting Audibles, why they do that. Well, the reason being is to keep things interesting and exciting. And it's a little bit to what I said to a degree with the first one. Imagine this. You're a listener and you're tuning into a podcast, and you usually understand a little bit about, the format of the episodes and of the podcast, and a little bit about what the structure is, you know what I mean? And you feel like, hey, I know this, it's a little bit predictable. And just when the listener thinks that the podcast may go that usual route, then the host and the co-host, they flip it and they go another way. And in that case, it's like, from the listener's point of view, it's like, what? No way. I can't believe that. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. I didn't think that they were going to go, I thought they were going to go one way, going through the regular door number one. But this time they decided to go to door number two. That's not bad. It definitely keeps things a little bit more, excitable, and definitely keeps things where it's like, us listeners are kind of like on our toes. So we're not bored, quote unquote, with the normal thing that happens, the normal routine. Now you have something a little bit more different, and we're just pumped. You know what I mean? Just for the simple reason, we're pumped. Now, number 3, on the why of the podcasting audibles. And that's really simple. It's the comedy aspect, to keep it fun and to keep it moving. You know, sometimes things are a little bit more just the way that they are right now. And then all of a sudden, let's just say, for example, they break into something different. Maybe they might include a little song and dance number and they just start singing or something like that. Or they start, utilizing different types of, accents, like the Boston accent or the New York accent, or like the Southern accent or the Texan accent, or even the California accent. They just want to make it a little bit more fun, and they want to give a little cool, lighter value into it, where it's like we don't take it serious. We just want to have fun and we do our thing, and that's where it's at. And I think that's cool, because at least that way you are entertained. You're laughing, you're having a good time, and you're not just sitting there listening to the regular stuff. When you mix it up and you have a little fun, you have a good time with it, most likely. 9 times out of 10, you really just get jazzed and you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't expect it, but this is so comical. I love it. I would have paid price for admission if I was actually seeing this live and in Technicolor. You know what I mean? And I think that's cool. I think that's really, really awesome. For anybody that cannot appreciate that, that's your right. I'm not saying anything bad, but I would just say shame on you if you don't really enjoy that awesome moment. And then the final reason why, honestly, people do podcasting audibles, going off the script, changing, the flow, there's just no rhyme or reason. You know what I mean? They just do it because they feel like, they can do it. And they feel like, since in podcasting there are no rules, why not? You know what I mean? And I've said this many times about podcasts. There basically is not really a set rule. There's no book that was written about podcasting, like you should do it this way, or it wasn't written on the internet. It's all about the feel. It's the organic process of just like really doing it and just having fun with it. And if you want to go ahead and change things for no reason at all, just to say that you're doing it, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people go ahead and change formats all the time. They do certain things that are a little bit more different than others, and that's okay. We don't really have to understand it. There's no real rhyme or reason. It's just, it is what it is. Bottom line. And I've been known to pull a couple of audibles every now and then. For today, honestly, I had an idea, like I said, and I was going to go ahead and do it. But then at the last moment, I was like, you know what? I want to do something a little bit more different, because I think that, at least for one segment, I want to talk a little bit about podcasting and, talk about like the thing that I love, which is, podcasting, my creative medium of choice, and to give the listener something to think about, because 9 times out of 10 they may not be a podcaster, and if you give them a lot of information of what they need to know about the art of podcasting, and from all angles in all different contexts, then the listener actually understands a little bit more better, and then they're a little bit more in tune. You know what I mean? So anything that I can do to help spread the word and to share knowledge, and people to have like a little bit of the inside track or an idea of the inside track, now you know. So we're going to go ahead and take 5 for a little bit. So go ahead and take a little break, drink some water, answer a couple of texts, or go ahead and make a phone call, or answer that phone call if you want to, or if you're hungry and you're thirsty and you want to go over to the kitchen and grub out for a bit, go ahead and do so. But come back, because there will be more on the way here on the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience, and you don't want to miss it. All right, we'll see you guys in a bit. I want to tell you about an amazing store that's really good for all musicians, music enthusiasts, and a whole lot more, which is Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center in Wheaton, Maryland. That's right, you heard it correctly. Since 1958, Chuck Levin's has been actually tearing up the game when it comes to the music scene. And guess what? Since 1958, they have been the store to go to and a must-visit destination for any serious musician passing through our nation's capital. So, if you're actually a person that's in a band looking for a new instrument, such as an electric guitar, an acoustic guitar, a bass guitar, or maybe some drums, if you're a DJ looking for like the greatest DJ equipment, such as turntables and so forth, they got you. Hey, are you actually in an orchestra playing a woodwind instrument, brass instrument, or strings? They got you. They got all the classical instruments that you need. And let's not forget, for all my fellow podcasters, need a microphone? They got you. Need a podcasting vocal track recorder? They got you. They got everything, man. And I'm telling you, it's the best place to go. So if you want to check them out, go ahead and do so, because right here at Chuck Levin's, they're the best. Forget the rest. Mess with the best. Located over at 11151 Veers Mill Road in Wheaton, Maryland. They're open Monday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you want to know more about what they have to offer, you can go over to chucklevins.com online or give them a buzz at area code 301-946-8808. Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center. Like I said before, don't worry about the rest. Mess with the best.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody. Welcome back for round 2 of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Glad to be back in the booth, chalking up another, win column for me because I feel pretty good. And the reason why is that during the break, I actually got a phone call, and it was a little bit unexpected because, it's one of those moments where I didn't think I was going to get a phone call. Not at all. Not at all. And it was actually one of my good friends that, I know through like a personal network, a personal circle of friends. And it was cool because, I hadn't talked to him in a while. I really haven't. So I haven't talked to him since like maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We usually hang out, we usually talk and so forth. We go through like, similar things and so forth. And he called me. And he was like, hey, Kim, I just haven't talked to you in a while. I just wanted to call and I just wanted to check up on you. I wanted to make sure everything was okay in your world. I wanted to check to see if you were in a good headspace. Talk to me. Let me know what's going on. And you know what? I just smiled. I smiled and I appreciate that. I appreciate that more than anything. When somebody calls you and checks on you and your well-being, you can't help but to feel like, wow, I'm being respected. I'm being appreciated. And for the reason that they called me just to make sure that I'm okay, I mean, wow, there's no better high. No bigger high. And I think that's great. I think it's one of those things where if you have the time to go ahead and reach out to a friend and just to check on them, they may already be in a good headspace and they already might be in a real good mood and that they're feeling like, like they're on top of the world. But for, to call them, even though that they're in a good mood, it brightens up the day. It's like, icing on the cake, more icing on the cake. You know what I mean? And who doesn't like cake with, more icing than the normal portion of icing on the cake? You know what I mean? Now, say, for example, if you have a friend that was really in a bad space. You're in a bad headspace. You've been having a real rough day or a rough couple of days. Something is really going on internally. You can't really detect it, and you just have that friend to call you. That is like one of those things where it's like, wow, because I was really having a real bad one, a real terrible one of which I just feel like, man, like, I don't want to say that I'm thinking the worst, but, maybe it possibly could have been there. And this person called me, just to make sure that I'm in a good headspace. It really brightens up somebody's day, for sure. For damn sure. Absolutely. And I just, I just am a big supporter of that. I believe in that. And I think that if anybody does have time, they should go ahead and call their friends, family members, loved ones, and so forth. Because, little things like that do matter. You know what I mean? It would definitely brighten up their day. And you never know that, it could, I don't want to be too negative about it, but it could save them. It could really save them. So always make time for those kind of individuals. Call them, make sure that they're doing okay. Now, if you can text, that's fine too, but I feel like it's more genuine when you call people. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. So at any rate, back at it again for round 2. I'm really happy. You know what I mean? In a few days, on November the 23rd, I will be celebrating my 47th year on this planet. And I'm really happy and proud of it. It all started back November 23rd, 1977, years ago in Annapolis, Maryland. I was born over in the Anne Arundel Medical Center that was formerly over in downtown Annapolis. And I got to tell you, it's been a heck of a ride these 47 years. Obviously, there's some things that I didn't do right. And a lot of things that, I know that I messed up on. And I'm okay to admit that because, I'm human. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You know what I mean? We're all born in the world, and we will make mistakes. We will make mistakes. And for anybody that tells you that, I was born perfect, well, I'm afraid to tell you that they're definitely lying to you. That is not the truth. If they tell you that, I'm a person that makes a lot of mistakes, you know what? It's not the first time in our lives that we ever made one. And it definitely won't be the last. But I definitely went through life making my mistakes. Some I'm still learning from those mistakes, and some that I, did learn from those mistakes. And in other cases, there are things in my life that I'm very proud of that, I've accomplished in my life, in my 47 years. You know what I mean? To do the things that I have done and to find certain success and to do things, to travel where I've traveled, and to just live life that I did, I got to tell you, it's a blessing. To make it to year 47 is absolutely incredible, and I would not trade it for anything in the world. And I really do believe that if somebody had some sort of power, you know what I mean? If they were saying something like, hey, we really want to erase the bad, you know what I mean, that you went through, and we want to change it for the better. We'll change your past to whatever that is that you really messed up on. We'll change the past. We'll tear up and cut up, the time fabric of that moment, and we'll make it a little bit better. And to be honest with you, if that was an opportunity, I would have to turn that down. I really would have to turn that down. I think that everything in life happens for a reason. You know what I mean? You can call it like, whether if it was like a manifest destiny, or if it was written in the stars, or if you want to say, in a spiritual sense, for those that are spiritual, that, God wrote that in the Bible or in his word somewhere. And he said that, through faith, you were supposed to get this. Whatever the case may be, I feel fortunate and I feel blessed. There are some people out there, that I can say that, and I'm not trying to say it to, like gloat or be disrespectful, but there are some people that are no longer with us that I feel, I have outlived them, you know what I mean, for whatever reason. So I feel fortunate in that respect. And there are some, people out there right now, that are just, I don't know, for a lack of a better term, they're just like, so there's some people that are just like, wow, I can't believe that he did that. And to be honest with you, if I was talking to them, I'd probably be like, I can't believe I did that either. I really can't. To do the things that I've been doing for 47 years of my life, chasing the dream of being an actor, having the distinct honor and the pleasure of being in a lot of great independent films, and some that actually had, got a lot of buzz, a huge amount of buzz, and opportunities professionally, working in the, promotional world, touring the United States of America through different, touring campaigns as, an assistant tour manager and a tour manager, which somewhere down the road I would love to, revisit that again. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I have the opportunity, to do so. I mean, I feel like it's there. And I have the experience to do that because I've been there. So I'm not the new kid on the block. I've done it. I've also done a lot with my life of, being in the martial arts and studying it for a long time. And although it took it was a long road, I finally hit the golden road to black belt. I've also had the distinct pleasure of earning all the way up to 3rd degree black belt, which is one of those ranks where, I've said this one time to a friend of mine in a friendly discussion about the martial arts, actually recently over a cup of coffee. And I told him that, reaching the 1st degree black belt is now as common as drinking like water. And then, getting to a 2nd degree black belt is just as common as like, beating, like some kind of video game or something like that. But to have earned a higher position, a higher degree in the 3rd degree black belt, that definitely sets you off. That definitely puts you in a different class where it's easily, it's easy to differentiate the fact that, you're in an upper echelon of excellence. And I take pride in it because, not many people go through that door. But if you've had the pleasure and the privilege to do it, yeah, it's incredible. I've also had the pleasure of, doing a podcast, and I never thought that I would be able to do a podcast. I've always talked about it, but I never really had the courage to go ahead and do it until back in 2020, over in the kind of like the, I wouldn't say the actual beginning, but we're like, a little bit steps after the beginning. It was still early, you know what I mean? And I felt really happy about, everything that I've done there, going on for about almost 4 years strong now. Coming in 2025, it will be year number 5. And it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And the fact that I'm still alive today, knowing that, I have some health issues, having congestive heart failure, having, asthma, having, type 2. It's definitely been a challenge, every step of the way. But I'm happy. I'm very happy, and I'm blessed because, where would I be, right now if I didn't recognize the fact that, I've done all this in 47 years of my life coming up. And I feel like I'm just getting started, and I have a lot of goals that I want to achieve. Obviously I want to still keep going with my podcast because I do find joy in it. I think it's incredible. I do want to keep continuing on with my, acting career in film. And I really want to kind of up the ante a little bit. Now, really, I honestly want to say that I want to be in, like, leads for major, projects. Either if it's like a local film project or even like a major motion picture project that's being filmed in Hollywood. I really want to be that guy. I really want to be the lead. Not to say that I'm not appreciative of all the opportunities that I've gotten, in film. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's a blessing. But come on, man. It's like, it's kind of like saying that you've been a black belt for like 10 years, being a first degree black belt. It's time to move up, man. It's time to level up. It's time to level up. And I think, with the 47th year, I feel like I have a lot to live for. And I have my purpose. And I've discovered it. And I want to keep going with it. And I think that as long as, I keep on doing what I'm doing right now, keeping myself focused and motivated, keeping myself on track, keep supporting myself with a positive network of people, positive people, never negative, and to also watch my health in mind, body, and spirit. Doing the good things physically, with my physicality, as well as my mental and my emotional. Because they say that you take the brain out of the body can't function. The brain is like, everything. I believe that. But also the heart's also everything too. So I also believe that too. Where I go from here, I don't know. The sky's the limit. I feel like, if you give me a challenge, I wouldn't be the type of person that would give up. I would say, okay, I'm going to do my best. I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I would definitely do my best and see where I go with it. And who knows, maybe I might be able to pass and conquer the challenge, head on. It'd be wonderful. It'd be great. I would love it a lot. It would definitely be one of those things where, that I could do it and then I could just have that as a crowning achievement, like the cap on the feather. If I don't do it like I did it and I unfortunately failed, I won't be mad. I just know that I feel like I would need to have time to take a moment to rebound, collect myself, and then get back at it again. Never give up, man. Always keep doing your best and always strive for excellence. And I think with the 47th year coming up, I understand it. And I just hope that it will take me to where I need to go. And I hope that it just will provide an opportunity of a lifetime for me to just, do whatever it is that I need to do. Hands down. Hands down. And I think so. I'm game for it, man. I'm game for it. Just like in that classic song. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today. But yeah, when November the 23rd comes, that'll be a day that I'm going to appreciate life. I'm going to love life. I'm going to make the best of my, of my situation and just take advantage of, my opportunities that I've been giving in life. And I'll keep doing it until I can't anymore, until I physically can't anymore and I have to literally throw in the towel. Fine. But until then, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep living my life. I'm going to be loving it. I'm going to live for the moment. And that's it. We're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break, guys. When we come back, we will go into round 3. Ladies and gentlemen, the Q&A session. Yes. 7 questions. You asked it. I'm going to answer it. So, guys, do what you need to do. Take a break. Get some water. Go ahead and get some food. Answer a phone call. Go to the restroom. Whatever it is you got to do. But come right back, because the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is coming back, and it's coming back hot. We'll see you in a bit. In life, we all want to have great health and excellent physical fitness. However, it's never given, only earned. That said, if you want to go to a gym that will help you to get there, then look no further than Kicked Up Fitness at National Business Parkway in Annapolis Junction, Maryland. Their mission at Kicked Up is to provide the ultimate functioning training facility that focuses solely on your success, with a diverse team that's highly qualified and dedicated to taking your fitness goals to the next level. Kicked Up also offers a variety of group classes and personal training programs that provide something for everyone, regardless of your fitness level. They believe in working hard, achieving results, all while having fun. So come visit their facility in person, which is located at 114 National Business Parkway, Suite 100 in Annapolis Junction, Maryland, 20701. Now, if you see my friend Sean Queen, who's the owner of Kicked Up, tell him that Benny Chow of Miscalculated sent you, and he'll hook you up with a complimentary 7-day pass just to try it out. Need more info? Give him a call. 410-888-9066. Email them at kufitnessnbp@gmail.com or visit them at their website at www.kufitnessnbp.com. Kicked Up Fitness. Never given, only earned.
And now, back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience with your host, Kim Hoang.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. We're here. We're doing it back for round 3, and it's amazing. And you know what? I'm really motivated and excited, so let's just jump into it. Real quick before we get into it, the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is asking for help on a voluntary basis. To anyone and everyone that would like to assist us in our podcast show by the ways of sponsorship or financially donating to our podcast show to help make the quality of our podcast that much better. All the proceeds that we raise will go to getting more equipment and better equipment that we need over here, such as more microphones for our in-studio guests, the XLR cables that are used for those microphones, headphones for our in-studio guests, and maybe like a MacBook Pro so we can actually use the up-to-date version of like editing software like GarageBand that will help us to make every episode of the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience that much better. You know what I mean? Whatever it is that you can donate is appreciated. So here's the joke. If you want to donate $5 million, which I don't think anybody would do that, but if you want to, you never know. We do appreciate that. Or as minimal as like $5. Every little bit helps, and we would appreciate your help. You can donate by the following apps and possible websites, you can go over to PayPal and Venmo if you have that app. Just search us under our tag name, which is at KimHoangMDActor, which is at KimHoangMDActor, or on CashApp, which our tag name is the $KimHoangMDActor. Once again, that's the $KimHoangMDActor. Now, again, it's voluntary. You can donate as much as you want, whether if you want to donate once a month, if you want to do it twice a month, 3 times a month, or 4 times in a month. It's really appreciated. So please help us out. It really would help us. I've always said that this podcast is not only my podcast, but it's the podcast for the people. And, we do this because we love y'all. And therefore, we feel that when you listen to us and so forth, and when you email us and so forth, it is your podcast too. So it's like, in a sense, you guys are also the bosses. But we can't do this alone. If you think of it from this perspective, when you help us out, it helps the quality of the podcast, and you, the people, help guarantee that the quality of this podcast will be in excellent order. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's go right into it. It is now time for the main event of the evening, as they say in the business. We have a Q&A forum, the question and answer, 7 questions. You ask it, and we answer it. I'm just really glad for the fact that you guys honor our wishes to not email us questions or send questions that has to do with religion and or politics, because that's just something we don't do. We want to keep the vibe cool and keep it going. You know what I mean? So let's just get into it. You know what I mean? Because I'm ready, I'm excited, and I'm pumped. You know what I mean? Hey, can I get a round of applause? Can I get it for the one time? Yeah, man, I appreciate that. So here we go, guys, in no particular order. Question number 1, Kim. Recently, I saw on your Instagram page that you made an announcement of future episodes on your podcast show where you'll have guests. Can you elaborate on that? Chuck from Wicker, Texas. That is correct, Chuck, 100%. I have invited some people. We are definitely going to be doing some episodes together. I'm really excited about it. One of them is a real cool friend of mine, Omar J. Richter. I knew him from the martial art days. He's a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. We came from the same school. He is basically a lot of things. He is a musician. He is a content creator. He has a content of a website, and the website is called thekimhoangpodcastexperience.com, which also he has some things on YouTube that has something to do with Think the Excellent Thought. He also wrote a book that's out on Amazon Prime called Beneath the Ice, Poems from the Deepest. It's a book of his original work and poetry and so forth. So we got in touch with him, and we're looking forward to actually, working with him and just seeing what it's all about, what he's all about and what his artistic creation's all about. So I'm really excited for that. I cannot wait. Also, I have invited 2 people on the cast, the Miscalculated series, the new movie called Uncalculated. They're in it. They're both actors in it, Krista Hansen and Brian Pacheco. Originally, it was going to be Krista because, I was like, oh, wow, because she was the first one that was really interested in, stuff that I was doing and so forth. And when she told Brian that, too, he wanted to jump in on the boat. And I said, you know what, this would be a perfect opportunity to get a 2-for-1. So on that episode, I do plan on interviewing both of them at the same time. So it'll be good because, I've always done the one-on-one. I've done like multiple, like, 2-on-1 and 3-on-1 on a Zoom interview. But I never really did like, interviewing two people at the same time in person, like face to face to face. That's going to be the challenge, but I'm okay with it. I think it's going to be fun. Talking to these actors that they're going to be on Uncalculated. I really want to kind of get their perspective on things, and we'll see what how that goes. I mean, I'm excited. There's definitely a lot of things going on here, a lot of excitement, and I'm just down. I'm so down. So let's. I can't wait. And that's all I got to say. Question number 2, Kim. What do you think about some karate uniforms from various martial art companies? How do you feel about the feel of their uniforms? Because I feel like the uniforms are different from the various martial arts companies out there. Claire from Madison, Indiana. Claire, that's 100% true. Different martial art companies do make karate uniforms, but it has a different type of feel. Honestly, I can also add that each company, their quality is also different. I can give you some examples. When I invest my money in like a higher price point of dollars for such companies as Key International and Sang Musa and Golden Tiger Martial Arts, I feel like they're incredible. They do a very good job, and I feel like the fit is pretty solid in my opinion. Now when I go to like something like Century Martial Arts, it's actually it's a pretty good uniform company for the bang for your buck, and I think that their uniforms is generally good. I just wish that it would have a little bit more space. It's not so much that it's very uncomfortable, but I feel like, if you give a little bit more fabric room for the midriff area for certain people, and especially around with the legs and the hips and so forth, I think it would be a little bit better. But I still like to use their uniforms on an everyday basis. When it comes to Pro Force, that uniform I'm not really a fan of. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's good that they make like different type of training equipment and stuff like that, but their uniforms I can't really endorse. I've had a lightweight uniform that ripped up very easily within 1 week, and I had a heavyweight uniform at one point that just kind of shredded apart right after 6 months of use, and I'm like, damn, that's not what I was really hoping for. I was hoping for a lot more, really good quality. The fit of the Pro Force, wasn't terrible, but, I just have to say to these companies, don't take any shortcuts. Martial artists want to get really good quality for a very good price. If you take any shortcuts or you try to do this or that, it's not a good look, and it just makes you guys look bad. So, all I can say is, we have a lot of opinions, and we want our voices to be heard. Currently, right now, I'm trying to talk to Century Martial Arts about something, but it's, of a different matter. It's more of like a designer thing, but hopefully, maybe, knock on wood, it'll work out. So, question number 3, Kim, who do you think would win in a pro wrestling match between Bret the Hitman Hart versus Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holds? Roger from Atlanta, Georgia. Wow, Roger, you're really taking it in there, brother. I can tell that you're a pro wrestling fan because, you mentioned 2 good wrestlers, both Bret the Hitman Hart and then, Dean Malenko, the master of 1,000 holds. they're great scientific amateur like wrestling professionals. They definitely have that scientific wrestling to a T. Amateur stuff that they do, like amateur wrestling style, they're very good at it. I know Bret Hart was an amateur wrestler back in the days when he was coming up in his high school days and so forth, and so was Dean Malenko. If it went that route, again, we're painting the picture where it's we're thinking like, as a wrestling nerd fan, and it's being mythological. Wow. Let me think about this. Oh, man. I would say Bret the Hitman Hart would win. I really think that Bret Hart would win. Because I feel like, with the years of experience and the way that he can mix wrestling with, like, just, non-wrestling kind of style, I think Bret has the better advantage, you know what I mean? And I think that his endurance factor definitely would have played a role. And I think, honestly, with as much as 4-star, 5-star wrestling matches that he's had more of than Dean Malenko, it speaks for itself. Again, we're thinking from a hypothetical situation. I don't think this ever happened. But, if it did, my money would be on Bret the Hitman Hart. Question number 4. Kim, would it be fair to say that MMA is the modern art of Jeet Kune Do? Wow. Michaela from Bozeman, Montana. Oh, wow. Michaela, that's a very good question. Let's just put it like this. Jeet Kune Do was invented by Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee decided to, come up with the idea that, traditions and martial arts and fixed positions and all that was really, really, a hindrance. So he wanted to formulate his own style of martial arts, which the nucleus of it was Wing Chun Kung Fu, and add other dimensions into, his art of Jeet Kune Do. Taking all the good aspects of each style of martial art and make it on his very own. MMA is almost, we could say that it's basically the same principle where, you're taking a lot of martial arts and you're mixing them together so that it works for that kind of situation. And I think that's fair to say. I think it's very fair to say that. I know that a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about MMA, especially from the purists of martial artists that train under a traditional style and mindset. But the way that I see it is that, martial arts in general is evolving every day. So we got to, if for anything, I feel like we do need to give it its respect. And that's all. I'm not in the business of bashing martial arts and so forth. I just feel like, if it works and it's proven, that's awesome. My thing is that for me, I probably, like, if it's something that I don't want to use, I'll just say that I don't want to use it or I don't want to study it because it's just not my style. It's not my flavor. But respect to it, you know what I mean? So, yes, going back, MMA, I do believe, is in a philosophical sense like Jeet Kune Do. So, there you go. Question number 5. Kim, I've been told that eating fish is bad, or eating a lot of fish is too bad. Is there any truth to that? Ronald from New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. Ronald, there has been some, information that I've been told about that when you eat too much fish, it's not a good thing, mainly because of the mercury count in fish, and that, when you eat a lot of it, it's not really a good thing for you. And I thought about it at first because I just thought, man, how can something so, like a good protein like that hardly has, any fat or anything of that sort, that's not dangerous to eat as compared to like red meat and chicken and stuff like that. How can that be? Well, I mean, there you go. I mean, it's the mercury count is there. That's why I always believe, and I've been told this, you should definitely eat it in moderation. Now, by that I mean, like, don't eat fish every single day, because the mercury count will add up. But if you eat it, like, let's say, if you eat fish like maybe twice a week or 3 times a week, maybe at most, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. But you should not eat it every single day. If you're just looking for a situation where, I want to eat fish because I want to be a little bit more healthier, and I just want to, better myself with eating something that is of meat, but, not with the heavy side effects, I do get that. But, it's all about the balance, is what I'm told. So, question number 6. Kim, did you ever have the T-Mobile Sidekick, and what were your thoughts on it? Tina from Eagle, Idaho. Tina, no, I've never in my life had a Sidekick. And I was really, really mad because I wanted to be one of those people that actually had the T-Mobile Sidekick. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've seen it before, you know what I mean? And I thought it was... At the time, I thought that T-Mobile was really on something, and I think that it was quite the invention. You know what I mean? And I think it was a great phone device. And when you flipped it over, you can just easily just text things or just look up stuff on the internet, or you can go on AIM and you can just go ahead and just start chatting up that way and so forth. I thought it was really, really cool. And I thought that, that was a phone that helped the idea later on for the smartphones, and then later on the iPhone, you know what I mean? So, it was a good predecessor phone for those types of phones. I think it was incredible. I wish I had one, but, looking at it now, if I had, knowing that I have an iPhone now, I'd stick to my iPhone. But I definitely think that the Sidekick was very, very cool. Very cool. Last question. Number 7. Kim, what are your thoughts on cooking on a wok? Jessica from Middleton, Oregon. I like cooking on a wok, Jessica. I really think it's great. There's a lot of great cooking techniques with it. I think a wok is very versatile. The thing about it, though, is that people have to understand that when you're doing cooking on a wok and, and stir frying, yes, the heat is concentrated on the bottom of the wok for sure. But what other people don't know is that you should also heat all sides of the wok so that it would have an even distribution of heat to the cooking surface. So that way you can not only just utilize the bottom, but on the top too, and on the sides and everything. Now people have to understand that if you have a gas stove, where like you turn it on and the fire comes out, I think a wok works way better for that type of surface. If you have an electric or an induction, and you're still trying to get that same effect, there is a way that you can cheat it by just putting the wok in the oven, turning it up, for like 450 degrees or 300 or whatever, and you can just put it in there for like maybe about 5 or 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Now, just make sure that the handle is not going to be one of those things where it's plastic and it'll melt off. You know what I mean? Like if you have a wok and it has like a metal handle, that's pretty good. You're safe. Just make sure that when you take it out of the oven that you actually cover it in like a thick towel, like a thick cotton towel, or if you have one of those oven mitts, grab it with that. If you have one of those woks where it's like a wooden handle, you're okay. Just make sure that you don't leave it in for long so that you don't burn the wood of the handle and you start smelling smoke. If you have like a plastic handle on a wok, I wouldn't suggest it. Because I have a fear that plastic handle will melt off and bad things will happen. You know what I mean? Don't do it. Don't do it. that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we are done. That is it. Another episode is in the books. It's in the can. We're happy. And it's a great thing. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience on a lot of places. We're on Facebook. Just go over to the search box and type in the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. Like it and follow it, and we appreciate it. We're also on 2 other social media platforms, such as Twitter, now known as X, and Instagram. Find us under our tag name at TKHPC Experience. Once again, that's at TKHPC Experience, all in one word, lowercase letters. Follow us and we'll follow you back. The Kim Hoang Podcast Experience is on a lot of platforms in our own podcasting world. Check them out on the following podcasting platforms, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, and the podcasting / voice books on Audible. Now, if you want to actually go ahead and try out Audible, go to www.audible.com for a free 7-day trial membership. If you want to become a permanent member after that, you can sign up and pay $15 a month. Now, do us a favor. If you have Spotify and you have Apple Podcasts, please like our stuff. And please give us a 5-star ranking, and especially in Apple Podcasts, please give us a positive written review. So the reason why that is that if you actually go over and do that, if you leave us a 5-star ranking on Spotify, if you leave us a 5-star ranking and a positive written review on Apple Podcasts, that gives us more of an edge. And the more good things that we get on that, then our podcast will be thrown in the front of the lines in Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So that if somebody actually is a member of that podcasting platform and they see it, they're like, oh my God, the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience. I actually remember that. Maria was telling me the other day about this podcast, and she said, you know what, we should like it and subscribe to it and follow it. Yes. All of that, yes. Guys, please like our podcast. Subscribe to it on all of the podcasting platforms. And most importantly, do us a favor, spread the word about our podcast on all of your social medias. Yes, all your social media pages. We got the Facebook, we got the Twitter, now known as the X, the Instagrams, the Snapchats. We also got what's the greatest craze of them all? TikTok. Yep, there you go. We got, spread it on TikTok. Let your people know on social media about that. And tell them old school. Tell them the old school way, face to face, whether if you want to tell your friend, if you want to tell a family member, if you want to tell a coworker, or if you want to tell your neighbor, tell them face to face about our podcast, because in this world, we call that, we actually say that is brand awareness, and we also say that sharing is caring. So if you can do that, that's awesome. Last but not least, guys, if you want to be a guest host, if you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to ask a question on our Q&A session, or if you want to send some kind of suggestion or constructive criticism, email us, the Kim Hoang Podcast Experience at gmail.com. Whatever the subject is, just go ahead and write it in the subject box, and in the body of the email, just write whatever you have to write, and then just send it out. And I'll go ahead and I'll take a look at it. I'll do the investigation, and next thing you know, you'll get a email back within 1 day or 2 days, because I do like emailing, in the terms of that kind of correspondence. I think it's great and wonderful. But that's all the time that we got, folks. I really do appreciate your time. This has been a great moment, and I love doing this. And as long as you still want me to keep doing this and providing great content, I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to make it happen. So yeah, that's all we got. Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate everything that you've done. We will check you out in the next one. Please be safe out there, because it doesn't do us any good if you do dangerous things, and you land in a pine box getting buried 6 feet under. We don't want that to happen to you, because we want you to be healthy and happy and to live life because you deserve it. You deserve to be happy. And for anyone that tells you that you don't deserve to be happy, you can tell them to go somewhere and take that negativity somewhere else. So that being said, for the one time, coming in all the way live over at the Prototype Studios in Wheaton, Maryland, which is in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. This is your boy, Kim Hoang, the Asian sensation. I am the host with the most. I am the voice because I am the choice. I'm the man with the plan, the man that can bring the power within the hour, saying God bless y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys real soon. All right? Y'all take care. Peace.